is sometimes defined as the essence of the human spirit. In the popular music of the 1960s, soul meant something more tangible. It was a shout of joy, a cry of pain, and an emblem of uninhibited self-expression.
I describe soul music as something that touches me and gives me goosebumps. And it could be a white person singing it, or a black person, or a purple person. I don't care who's singing it as long as you can lift my spirit.
Everything we did live came from out of soul music. You know, the spiritual intensity, the idea of going for both your spirit and your gut.
Do you like good music? That's sweet soul music. Just long as it's swinging. Oh yeah. We out here on the floor now. Going to a go-go. Honey dancing to the music. Oh yeah.
Oh man, you're talking to somebody who's a music buff, especially when it comes to black music. Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud by James Brown. Ozzy Brothers, It's Your Thing. I mean, I could go on and on.
There's this thing about soul, you know, of abandoning yourself to the songs.
The normal definition for it would be, well, it's black music or black people singing music or what have you. But I don't agree with that, because I just think that everybody has their own soul, and I've heard the same song by 10 different people, and their soul was applied to it.
If you feel your music intensely and you express it that way honestly, then it's soul. It's tied a lot to, I think, a lot to gospel music. I think it's secular gospel music.
But gospel music is really like, let's say, the bed mate to R&B music.
I remember Mount Moriah Baptist Church and the support that the people gave us. Now, when we became Gladys Knight and the Pips, which I was just turning, 8 then, but we had our little church group before we had Gladys Knight and the Pips. So it being my brother and sister and my cousins, we all went to the same church. So when we formed the group, that was the same group that went down to the Royal Peacock to perform on Sunday nights. And the church would just migrate from Mount Moriah down to the Royal Peacock.
It's amazing back there, like a... And then they had that, that howl, woo! And I love that, woo! They were just screaming. I said, oh, my Lord.
I guess your music, what's in your body, what's in your soul, or the way you came up is somehow or another will come out through your fingers or come out through your vocal cords or whatever.
Everyone who influenced me and everyone who I just idolized was a gospel singer. Dionne Warwick, Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, Patti LaBelle, they were all great gospel singers first.
This is a song that could be done as soulful and gospel. Maybe. Let me see how I do it. If you ask me to, I just might change my mind and let you in my life forever. Now that might be soulful. Now gospel. Oh, if you ask me to, I just might change my mind and let you in my life forever. Yeah, that's it.
Soul is synonymous with great voices and great entertainers, each one unforgettable.
Soul music is...
Soul music is... It's just soulful.
Gratified.
How would I put it?
It's a feeling that you have to have.
It's not prim and proper.
It's funky.
James Brown. James Brown.
James Brown.
James Brown. James Brown.
Papa's a nurse, wait. He ain't too hip now. But that new breed thing. He ain't no drag. Papa's got a brand new bag.
Gotta ask my parents I need to dance. Some big fine mama come give me a chance.
Ain't no drag. Papa's got a brand new bag.
James Brown. That's the funkiest man in the entire world. He creates some of the most creative, revolutionized rhythms for his time and funk. I mean, he's an originator. He's an original.
First time I had a chance to go see James Brown, the line was so long, I didn't mind standing in that line just to get in there to see him. Stayed in there to see 3 shows because James Brown had some bands that was just put people in frenzies.
James Brown's influence was one of the most powerful. I mean, it's evident in all groups that can halfway dance, you know. It's attitude.
He's gonna scream, he's gonna yelp, he's gonna spit, he's gonna dance. And when they say 1, 2, 3, 4, hit it, he's giving the MCs something to get ill on.
James Brown is a master. There's one James Brown. The things that he has achieved has opened the doors for many black artists. There'll never be another James Brown.
He's got a brand new bag.
James Brown's stagecraft set a new standard. But from the late 50s into the 70s, he had plenty of competition, from the grittiest of blues stylists to the most sublime of gospel balladeers.
Darling, you send me. I know you send me. Darling, you send me. Honest you, honest you, honest you. Whoa, whoa.
Sam Cooke was very important in the development of rock and roll. I first heard Sam Cooke singing gospel music when he used to sing with the Soul Stirrers, and that's when I was a kid. So he's one of my major influences.
From childhood, he was always talented. He just, that was truly a gift of God. I mean, he had a voice that was mesmerizing.
It was infatuation, but ooh, it's lasted so long. Now I find myself wanting to marry you and take you home. I know.
He was one of the very first black people to play the Copacabana and make this grand splash, you know, and he had this big billboard on Broadway. I mean, he did it like it was, first class. Go, Sam.
He used to always say music is simplicity. He said people would buy the news if you sung it with a melody.
I know when you're home, and the world, whenever you kiss me, honest.
Sam Cooke and Jackie Wilson were rivals in the industry, but they were good friends, you know. After they'd leave the stage, Sam and Jackie would hang out together. They were very good friends.
Don't you have no fear? Put your hands on your hips and let your backbone slip and work out. My mama moved up.
One of the most interesting people we ever introduced was Jackie Wilson, who had an untrained operatic style delivery, but who was a gymnast and a former boxer. Take that conglomeration, put it together. What a magnificent entertainer. They call him Mr. Excitement.
He was just a great performer. You know, you talk about Michael Jackson spinning, you used to see Jackie Wilson spin.
Don't you know? Round and round we go. Where we stop, nobody knows.
He would fight at the drop of a hat. I mean, we played New Orleans once when they had a segregated audience and black people sat on one side of the stage and white people on the other side of the stage, and the performers got whiplash trying not to insult anybody while they were performing. And some big cracker policeman said something to Jackie and he popped it. Pow! Well, they almost killed him. But I mean, that was the kind of person you were dealing with, Jackie. His temper was as great as his talent.
That late 60s R&B type music was probably some of the best music we've turned out as an industry.
Each sound, each city had its own identity. The sound could never be duplicated from Philadelphia. The sound could never be duplicated from Detroit. The sound could never be duplicated from Memphis. The sound could never be duplicated from Atlantic Records.
We always went for a very strong bottom, very pronounced bass, a good rounded bass sound, strong bass drum. In other words, clean funk.
Jay Wexler's has always been a huge supporter of black music. And Atlantic began its career in black music.
When you see me in misery, come over, baby, till my feet. No. It's all right now. See the girl with the diamond ring. She knows how to shake that thing. No. She's all right now. Play it one time. That's what I'm talking about.
Ray Charles was the Michael Jordan of music. Ray could do anything and everything and make it believable.
He was walking up the stairway and out to the exit, which I just happened to be there, and I touched his shoulder, and it was like, I thought I'd touched the Lord.
Tell your mama, tell your pa, gonna send you back to Arkansas. No. Mama, you don't do right. Oh, you don't do right now.
I have a very personal reason for loving Ray like I do, not only for the fact of his talent, because he is one of the most talented people ever, but the very first professional gig that I ever played in my life was we played the Ray Charles show at the Apollo Theater in New York. We had never played a show like that, so we didn't realize we needed professional band arrangements. We didn't have them. We had what we call onion skins or lead sheets. He sat there and did an arrangement to both of our songs that we were singing on that show, just dry, just like that. I love Ray Charles.
He's like that vintage bottle of wine, you know, that he's an antique. He is just too good to be true.
Soul music to me is something that portrays what you are, and it digs. It can go as deep as you allow it to go. You know, and then it releases you. You know, and you feel great. That soul music is good for the soul.
There was so much soul music then, you know, great soul music. Wilson Pickett, you know, it was just amazing.
I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. My love comes tumbling down. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. No one else around. I'm gonna take you, girl, and hold you. You are the things I told you.
Well, Wilson, you know, his reputation precedes him, and that's why they call him the Wicked Mr. Pickett, you know. I had been listening to some of the stuff that he had played on and sang on. And almost invariably on these gospel things, he would go into this, I'm going to wait till the midnight hour to see my Jesus and all that. You know, he would go into this chant, and, you know, and it sort of, to me, it was sort of like an identity for him.
Wilson was a crazy man. I loved him. Wilson was the king of funk.
In the midnight hour, Lord have mercy. Play for me, boy.
Wilson is fantastic, you know, singer, you know, entertainer too, you know.
I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. My life.
Most of these artists that you're talking about are unique. They were the Memphis sound, you know. They represented that area of the country that produced that music, Stax, that whole era of Stax with that soulful music that came from Memphis.
Too long to stop now.
We were in a very large room. We were in a movie theater, which was not a giant theater by any means, but it was a pretty good-sized theater. I've had a lot of musicologists and a lot of musicians refer to the Stax records of having this incredible delayed backbeat. And a lot of that really came by accident.
Oh, too long. And I don't want to stop now.
The first time I heard the setting, I was driving through some southern city, and we were listening to WLAC, a big radio station, 50,000 watts, that came out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I heard this man who was just moaning and groaning, "These arms are mine," as only he could do. And I said, what is this guy doing? What is this sound?
And I don't want to stop now. No. I've been loving you just a little bit too long.
I watched him and knew he was going to be a star. I've never seen a man master a stage so fast in my life. He made me learn how to master a stage after watching him do it.
Soul music is, I think, almost a state of mind, and it's something that you express. You express that state of mind very emotionally.
My concept of it is that it's music that comes from the heart. It might just be one word you just want to bring across a certain way, you know, to put across your point. And I think that's what the soul is.
It's outside of some other music that is very structured.
You can take some structured singers that have become soul singers. They took the structure out of it. They base it on structure, but then they just do what they feel impulsively.
Aretha Franklin, as evidenced by how many people refer to her today, is the living encyclopedia of soul music.
Sitting around, me and my man.
Look at how many people borrow from and emulate and idolize what she contributed.
Her voice is just effortless. She doesn't even have to try, you know, it just comes out. She's blessed. She's definitely blessed. And I remember her songs around my house a lot.
Sitting right there looking at me and that man. Can you understand me, girls?
As far as how to record her, just to keep doing more or less what we had been doing with our rhythm and blues artists, to let this sound emerge and be heard and not try to make it palatable to a wide audience. The idea was to record her with great musicians and put her at the piano and let her sing and play for herself.
I don't mind company.
One of the reasons for some of the hits at Atlantic was my gospel background being merged with the popular or R&B stylings.
Aretha, gospel and soul, totally synonymous.
Good God Almighty, that man sure makes me feel real
I think you look back and you look at all the performers that came before you, and they make their own maps, and they leave them for you if you care to read them. There's an art to it, and those guys were the masters. All the soul greats were the masters at it.
And you got quite a few others, but those legends shows you how to do it.
Apart from its gospel and blues heritage, soul had tangled roots in the world of independent record companies, which created music for a segregated audience.
They were called, at that time, race records. And they would have the word race on the record. The strong ones were black artists coming through the independent record companies. At that time, the music was being controlled by Chess Checker and Argo Record Company, Atlantic Record Company, companies like that were smart enough to sign up black artists and merchandise and market these black artists. And these entrepreneurs would get in their car and go down south and sell the records themselves, because no record shop would take these records.
So it became soul music, and black people were supposed to be the ones doing it. And then it got to be so good, then everybody else wanted to adopt soul music.
When we recorded Little Latin Loopy-Loo, the white stations wouldn't play it because the quote was that it was too hard rock. What it was is it just sounded too black for their white stations. Now, we didn't know that at the time, but the one thing that we're most proud of is that the black audience accepted us, just point blank, and they didn't have to. They just flat didn't have to. But the great thing about the black audience is that if you are emotionally cutting it, that's what it's all about.
There were in those days 4 theaters that you were required to play to prove that you had sort of made it. They were called the Lichman chain, and it consisted of
the Regal Theater in Chicago,
the Howard in Washington,
There was the Uptown in Philadelphia.
And the Apollo in New York City. You had to play those 4 theaters.
Yes, I heard it. Whoa, yes, I heard it. Yes, it hurt me, baby. Nah, take it. That's why.
On stage at the Apollo Theater, 3 generations of soul singers reminisced.
It was the only really black theater this was like Broadway. I mean, this was like, it was like heaven to,
Right.
it was like to young artists, this was hallowed ground,
Yes,
I mean, every great entertainer had been here.
Like your Otis Reddings and your James Browns, and you got a chance to become friends with them and talk with them, and they give you little tidbits on what you should do. So you not only got educated about show business here, you got educated about the world and about how people are.
The Apollo Theater and the theater circuit and the different clubs that we used to play that people considered part of the Chitlin circuit. It was our playground. It was where we learned our craft.
The importance of the Apollo, it just means so much to so many people. I mean, it could have been some place in Peoria, but it's not. It happened to be in New York City, and that's where a lot of things happen. And there's so many great artists that came out of that area and off of that stage.
I remember having to put my hot dogs on the light bulb. We had 5 shows a day, and that was my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because we would play cards with Tommy Hunt and maybe the Dells and the Spinners. I don't know who else, Dionne Warwick or whoever, but they would always take my money. They would always win.
One of the things I remember the most about the Apollo is the first time we walked in there, they had a mural on the foyer wall. Harry Belafonte, Sammy Davis, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Billy Eckstine, all these people were on that mural.
For me, those were the glory days. I got to see one of those magic Apollo nights with James Brown and Otis Redding on the same bill. And this is my Oscar, These are my Oscars. These are my memories. These are more precious to me than any recording contract or an award that I could receive, because they were mine, and I still keep them inside.
The range of the Chitlin circuit mirrored the scope of the music pouring out of the studios, from the East Coast to the Midwest. In Detroit, Motown reigned supreme.
The songs were really songs that reached all across the world. And they reached people, and they reached people probably at that time when Motown just opened up the doors to everybody.
See, I was a big Motown child. I was a heavily influenced Motown child. For me, it was, whatever the Beatles meant to those screaming teenagers, Motown meant to me.
I don't know if they were listening to us, but we were certainly listening to them. I don't think we were trying to copy them by any means. But, you couldn't turn on the radio without hearing a Motown record.
What made Motown was Berry Gordy, who is one of the most unique people, I'm sure, to ever be on this planet. And to have him at the helm of what was going on was just the most wonderful thing for a music-making young person who had access to Detroit at that time.
We first knew him as a songwriter. In fact, when he started Motown, when he started this record company, whatever he's going to name, he asked us, would we go with him to that company? And we said no, because We didn't think he had a chance. We said, absolutely not. You know, black guy with a tape recorder starting a record company. Yes, right. Okay. One is so magical. I mean, because you can see all your dreams come true. You just, yes, it's here.
Barry had a vision, you know. I mean, he had a real good, strong sense of vision and imagination and organization. He really knew how to put it together so that he could end up with something that ended up being what they call the sounds of young America. And it was very, very different.
The reason we started Motown was because nobody was paying us. You see, Barry would produce our records in the early days and put them out to other companies, and nobody really paid us. So I went to Barry's office one day, and he was saying, he said, this record is so big. He said, I don't know what to do. He said, because I don't know who to put it with, because nobody's been paying us. He said, I don't know who to put it with. So I said, well, why don't you just go national with it, man? He said, what? I said, why don't you just go national with it? He said, go national. He said, well, I'm not set up to go national. I said, but you can be. I said, nobody's paying us anyway. If we lose money, we lose money for ourselves. You know, why don't you just go? So he did. We came out with Please Mr. Postman. Smash. Right on the heels of Please Mr. Postman, we came out with Shop Around, which was just, whew. So that's how it happened.
The real Smokey that I love is the songwriter Smokey, the Smokey who writes lyrics like "Tracks of My Tears" and "Ooh Baby Baby, I'm just about at the end of my rope, but I can't stop trying, I can't give up hope." Come on, please, that says it all, you know.
But I can't stop trying. I can't give up hope, 'cause
Ooh Baby Baby was a song that actually started live on stage. We, when I say we, I mean the Miracles and me, started on stage one night just singing, ooh, baby, baby. I started singing it. The guys fell in the harmony. Started singing, ooh, baby, baby. The people went crazy. So we said, hey, man, people like that so much, we should do a record, ooh, baby, baby. So we came home, finished up the song, went to the studio, recorded Ooh Baby Baby, and that's where it came from. We could go on a 51-nighter tour, okay? And as soon as you got home and took a bath or whatever you want to do and got yourself together, you went to Hitsville. Why? Because everybody was going to be there.
And we pulled up there in front of the house on the first day. We got in 62, I think it was. And we watched the Supremes or the Temps.
Little Stevie would be there. You could hear him upstairs playing on the drums or blowing his little harp. Marvin Gaye might be pulling up and he's talking to his wife, Anna, who's Barry's sister. The Temptations would probably be maybe down in the studio recording at this time. Holland Dozier and Holland is in the room writing. But anyway, you just walk up and you know there's something for you to do. Or you just come to see what everybody else is doing. And it was really like a meeting place at that time because it had exploded. I mean, things were happening. The Supremes were the #1 group in the country. Temptations were having their hit. We had just, the Four Tops, we had just had Baby I Need Your Lovin'. And the excitement was just all in the air. And every day, almost, you could see somebody else's dream come true.
I've been crying, ooh, 'cause I'm lonely for you. My back all turned to tears, but tears won't wash away the fear that you never ever gonna tell.
most important thing in the world that could happen in my teenage years was when the Supremes made their next appearance. It was like news throughout the neighborhood.
All their songs were so great. I mean, and when I listened to some of the Supremes, like their catalog, those girls had songs up the yang-yang. I said, how many songs have you girls got? Not have, but got. I mean, they had more songs than they should have. They should have gave me 2 of them.
Our acts were groomed from the very first signing. See, every act inspired the other acts because every act wanted to be good, because the Motown acts were trained to be good.
Yeah, they were immaculate. You know, most of the people that you're talking about, these people here were like tailor-made, you know. I mean, they were immaculate, very colorful, you know, very well-groomed. The Temptations were the best of that era.
When it's cold outside, I've got the month of May. I guess you said, what can make me feel this way? My girl, talking about my girl.
I used to call them, my pet name for them was the Five Deacons, because they had this church harmony, and they were just awesome. I mean, with Melvin way, 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 way down on the bottom, and Eddie way, 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 way up on the top, and all the harmonic sounds in between them, those brothers could blow. I wrote My Girl probably in about 10 to 20 minutes, and every time in between the shows at the Apollo while the movie was playing, I would take the Temptations downstairs on the stage and we would work on My Girl. And I would always let the Temptations make up their own backgrounds because they were masters at it. And they would be doing stuff that I would never think of for background vocals. Whoop, hoop, weep, all that, you know. So I always let them make up their own backgrounds. And then when we got home, I recorded it on them. And it's one of those songs that has just lived on and on and on and on and on. I'm very proud of it.
I idolized the Temptations because I was a street corner singer, and these guys were the ultimate, the ultimate singing group. I think one of the most amazing days of my life was spent here, and that was in June of 1985. I was asked to be part of the reopening ceremonies, festivities here, and I was honored to be asked to do that, and I wanted to bring something into it that was a part of my beginning, so I asked Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin to join John and myself.
I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I've got the month of May. We can all sing this one. Well, I guess you would say, what can make me feel this way? It's my girl, my girl, my girl. Talking about my girl, my girl.
It was one of those moments where the past, the present, the future all come together.
I've even got the month of May with my girl. Talking about my girl. Ooh, my girl. That's all I can talk about is my girl.
The Motown sound was a 24-hour-a-day thing that people tried to develop, and it was made out of love to help each other win.
They would cut 5 different tracks with 5 different producers, and then they would come in with 5 different sets of songwriters and 6 different lyric writers or whatever, and then they would cut it with 3 or 4 different 5 artists.
Barry was smart enough to realize that that music had an appeal beyond the black community. It would be better if everybody liked it. So he didn't make it colorless. It was truly black music, but it appealed to everybody all over the world.
But each hurt makes my love stronger than before. I know flowers grow from rain, but how can love grow from pain? Ain't that peculiar, a peculiarity? Ain't that peculiar, baby, peculiar as can be?
You know, Marvin was a unique talent. We would go by the studio. You could almost depend on Marvin being there or being somewhere creating something. And because he was such a giver, it made the people around him want to be of that spirit too.
Say my love for you makes all your lies seem true. If the truth makes love last longer, why do you lies make my love stronger? Ain't that peculiar, baby? Peculiar as can be. Ain't that peculiar? A peculiarity.
When we first started Motown, we had 5 employees, and he said, we're going to make music with a great beat, with some great stories. And that's what we did. We made music with a great beat, with some great stories. He said, our stories are going to be such that anybody can listen to them. They will not be offensive. And we're just going to make music. Eventually, he adopted the slogan, the sound of young America, because that's what we were.
Jackson 5 was the first people that I could relate to. Those are young black kids doing something that I like to do.
I used to kiss the TV when Michael came on. I used to love Michael Jackson.
In the Jackson 5, I really liked Randy at the time. I mean, I love Michael, but I was after
Everybody
Randy.
had their own one, you know, that because the older girls like Jermaine, you know, I think Randy was like around our age. I think Michael was a little older, but everybody had their own. Michael was mine. Oh my God, I used to kiss the television. Won't you please let me back in your heart?
To this very day, and on, Motown will have the songs that people will want to continue to record and do over and over.
The only music I ever heard as a kid was street music, R&B music, not so much the blues, and church music. I sang in church. Came out of the Philadelphia sound.
It's like the Motown sound. I guess Philadelphia, we're very special by having our own sound.
I was looking for those special talents coming out of the urban community. My first move was to make a deal with Gamble and Huff, who were the great producers of the era.
Well, I think the Philly sound was an extension of our experiences in Philadelphia. It was a little bit of jazz, a little bit of gospel, a little classical, and me and Huff got together. That was it. It was like. It was meant to be.
Some people got to have it.
O'Jays, I would think about how dynamic Eddie Levert and Walter were, and also William also too.
We couldn't wait till the O'Jays got to town so we could rehearse. It was like a certain anxiety there that was like undescribable.
Yeah, yeah.
Kenny and Leon had an innate ability to write about what was going on.
People were still from their mother. People were robbed their own brother. People can't even walk the streets because they'll never know in the world they're gonna meet for them beat on me. Big dream, almighty dollar, cash money.
I think Gamble and Huff are the premier message writers. Mr. Gamble is a genius, absolute genius, at bringing forth situations and talking about situations that exist.
We on purpose tried to put different messages in the music that were relative to that particular time. But we weren't the first ones to do that.
As a matter of fact, I like to tell people oftentimes that Curtis Mayfield's songs kind of ushered in the civil rights movement.
If you had a choice of colors, which one would you choose, my brothers? If there was no day or night, which would you prefer to be right? How long have you hated your white teacher? Who told you you love your black preacher?
We were tired as hell. We weren't going to take it.
As Prince says, the sign of the times, the times were reflected in the music.
People must prove to the people a better day is coming for you and for me, with just a little bit more education and love for our nation.
I think in part, the music affected the movement, and the movement affected the music. However, from my perspective and the view from my particular bridge, it makes me want to say that the music affected the movement more.
Put your bad self, say it louder. Say it louder. Look here, some people say we got a lot of malice, some say it's a lot of nerve. But I say we won't quit moving until we get what we deserve. Take two eyes to make a pair. Brother, we can't quit until we get our share. Say it loud.
In the 60s, when James Brown came out with his rendition of I'm Black and I'm Proud, I think it was something that was needed because I think the country was setting new standards at that time. And of course, you know, we were trying to gain equality for our people. So James Brown had made a great contribution to all of that with soul music.
There was a message then, there's a message now. The message is probably a little more in your face type of message. Like that reminds me of Run DMC's, well, I'm proud to be black, y'all, and that's a fact, y'all. You know, it's the same type of thing. So once again, the same way that you get hooks, the same way that you get samples from those songs, you also can listen to what they were saying, and it can influence you. That music can influence you.
I think just the nature of black music makes it almost like cell division. It just constantly grows and builds off of itself.
The golden age of soul was the 1960s, but the sounds of that era still echo in the music and popular culture of America today.
The story goes.
The emotion, the artistry, the runs. I think that is what creates soul.
You know, when people ask me why the music is still around, I've been doing it for 35 years professionally. It was here when I came. It will be here when I leave. Because the messages and the melodies are infinite.
House is not a home when there's no one there to hold you tight, and no one there you can kiss goodnight.
All of the movies that we go to see, you look at TV shows like China Beach, and there's Diana Ross and the Supreme singing Reflection. You know, you listen to songs by acts in other musical genres, by rock and roll acts, by just other acts, you know, who are successful, and they all pay homage to R&B and soul music of the 60s, 50s, and 70s.
I think that soul music is around, it's going to be around because it's the essence, it's the life of the music industry, soul music.
Soul music never loses time, and it's always timely. It's like it can't be outdated, and it's never going to be old hat. Soul music it's just like something that haunts you and that will be with you for the rest of your life.
Now and then I call your name, and suddenly your face appears, but it's just a crazy game when it ends.
Just let me hear some of that rock and roll music. Any old way you choose it. It's got a backbeat, you can't lose it. Any old time you use it. It's gotta be rock and roll music. If you wanna dance with me. If you wanna dance with me. I have no kick against modern jazz, unless they try to play it too darn fast and change the beauty of the melody until it sounds just like a symphony. That's why I go for that rock and roll music. Any old way you choose it. It's got a backbeat, you can't lose it. Any old time you use it. It's gotta be rock and roll music. If you wanna dance with me. If you wanna dance with me. Don't care to hear them play a tango. I'm in the mood to dig a mambo. Way too early for the Congo, so keep a rocking that piano.